Hey, welcome to this week's episode of The Real Estate of Life with Kevin Rouse and friends. That's right. I have a friend, Nancy Sarnoff, the Houston Chronicle real estate writer, will be with us. We'll talk about Nancy. We'll talk about real estate. We'll talk about real estate and Nancy. We'll talk about all those things. So I'm just so excited to have her. This is like having real estate Yoda. She knows all things about real estate. So DJ, hit that music, please.
Support for this program comes from the Digital Broadcasting Network, presenting podcasts and web series from everyday people who have an extraordinary passion to make the world a better place.
Hey, welcome back to The Real Estate of Life with Kevin Rouse and friends. And I have a friend, I would call Nancy a friend, on today. She is the Chronicle real estate writer, or Houston Chronicle real estate writer. For those, I know we have an international audience. Sometimes you don't know we're based out of Houston, Texas, the best city in the world, right? And so Nancy Sarnoff with the Houston Chronicle is with us. I've just was talking to her off camera, and I think we've known each other 9 years, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
And so I am so excited. You'll understand, this is like real estate royalty in the city of Houston. Like, she goes up in front of people in big organizations like CCIM and does big, huge things. And then I did the mistake today. I asked her to come, and she said, "Oh yeah, great, Kevin, I'll come." And I forgot to tell her that we were not only audio recording, we were video recording. So she's feeling some kind of way about that, but that's okay. We're gonna be okay. So welcome, Nancy. How are you doing?
Thank you so much. I'm doing great. I'm excited.
You know what? I'm excited because I want to go ahead and give true confessions up. So I was just a lowly young real estate broker. Had the HUD contract at the time. So if you listen to this podcast, you've heard my HUD stories, or that's kind of the contract that put me on the real estate map. Mm-hmm. And I get this call from this young lady, and she said, "Hi, my name is Nancy, doing something on foreclosures." And this is during the 2006, 2007, 8 debacle, somewhere in there. Yeah. And I just want to ask you a couple of questions. And she doesn't know this. I don't know if you know this. But you did that article, did that feature on me. Mm-hmm. As far as the foreclosures and HUD contract and all that kind of stuff. And then all of a sudden, all the news stations started calling me, and I kind of, for about 3 or 4 years, became like the real estate guy for ABC 13.
Wow.
And so I all started with you.
Wow. So you owe me that.
Yes, I do. Very much so. And I think I shouted you out one time on Facebook, like, y'all don't understand the power of information. Plus, my natural, I'm a teacher at heart, right? So I always tell people on the podcast that, my calling is actually to be a teacher. I just happen to apply that in real estate, and I teach at Prairie View. And so I have a kinship to you in that I always feel like your articles are teaching.
Yeah, that's really nice.
That seems like you're stating fact, but you're also kind of educating folks about that. So before I get to you, the Chronicle and real estate, I want to know about Nancy Sarnoff, the person.
Okay.
So background, give me the kind of the Reader's Digest version of where you're from, where'd you go to school, you want to shout anybody out at your school, whatever the case may be, but kind of give me a background of you.
Okay. So I actually came to journalism a little bit later in my career.
Okay.
So I'll just start with that. But I've lived in Houston most of my life.
Okay.
I was born in Chicago.
Okay.
And we lived there until I was in middle school.
Okay.
And we moved here to Houston and to the suburb of Kingwood. And,
Okay.
So
Shout out Kingwood. Yeah.
I guess, yeah. Kingwood. It was a big place. It was a culture shock a little bit for me, but
Coming from Chicago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was just, I was in middle school, which is like the worst.
Just went through that with Madison, yes.
Okay. Yeah. Those are the worst years probably.
Right.
I mean, they were for me, but anyway, stayed there and graduated from Kingwood High, and then I ended up graduating from U of H.
Okay.
So I've been pretty much a Houston person my whole life, almost.
Were you a journalism major at U of H?
I was not.
Okay.
I was not. And like I said, it's something that came a little bit later. I was in the communication school, and to be honest, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do after graduating. And I kind of like telling that story because a lot of parents are concerned about their kids when they are in school or they're finishing school and they don't want, they feel kind of lost and they don't yet know what they want to do. And I was definitely there. Like, I had some odd jobs and I finally got into my first, I guess, professional job was at a company called Gulf Publishing, and it was an oil and gas publisher. They published magazines and books and textbooks, and it's actually a real estate story too, because their office was on Allen Parkway, and it was an old, like, I think 1920s kind of Spanish Mediterranean style building, really beautiful building on the outside, and it was later torn down, and now there's a 30-story high-rise there. But
I think I know what you're talking about.
yeah. And so anyway, that was really my first kind of professional job, and I worked for one of the magazines, and after being there a few years and moving up a little bit, I kind of hit the top. All the editors and everyone on the editorial staff were petroleum engineers, because it was a technical magazine, and so if I wanted to move ahead, I would have had to get my petroleum engineering degree, which I had no desire in doing. And so, so that's when I looked elsewhere. I found a job at the Houston Business Journal, worked there.
Oh, okay. I didn't know you had to stop
for a bunch of years.
Okay.
Yeah, and then ended up at the Chronicle, and it's,
How long have you been at the Chronicle?
So about 12 years.
Okay.
Yeah, so a long time.
Right.
A lot of my
That's a career for a millennial.
For sure. Yeah. And it's just been, Houston's been a great place for me, and I've settled here, I have family now, and so, and I've had some really good professional opportunities, and so, yeah.
So let me ask you this. Going back to, you said something. So I have a 15-year-old. Y'all know. Shout out Madison. Love you.
Maddie.
And yeah, exactly. Maddie. Exactly what we're talking. Maddie. And I know you have a child as well now, around 7, 8 years old. So my undergrad degree is computer science and computer engineering. As you know, I sell real estate, and I do the Real Estate of Life podcast, of course. And I think it's critical. Just to spend a couple moments on that whole lost feeling. Yeah. So I was computer science, computer engineering. I was good at math and science. That allowed me to go to school for free on scholarships. But I always knew in my heart of hearts that what I was doing, because I came home working for Exxon Mobil, or Exxon at the time, then became Exxon Mobil. And so, but it never felt right. It was a good job. Yeah. Good benefits, the whole nine, kind of like what your parents tell you, go find a good job and with good benefits, work for that job forever and you'll be okay. But I find myself trying to advise Madison because of the life choices I've made, and she has a little bit different familial situation from a resources standpoint, to try to figure it out so my question to you is, did your life from elementary, junior high, high school, and college ever give you clues as to what you're doing now? In other words, like, I loved talking, I loved doing speeches. In college, I was president of this, and I loved getting up in front of folks. I loved interviewing folks. I loved coaching folks. So I look back now and say my life gave me clues as to what I like doing now. Did yours?
Yeah, that's a really thoughtful question. A couple things I would say. Everyone says they were a shy kid or they're shy, but I feel like that was part of it. And doing what I do, yes, you have to get in front of people. Yes, you've got to be really knowledgeable in what you're doing, but you don't have to talk about yourself that much. And if you're kind of a shy person, it's kind of a dream job, because
you don't have to, right?
It's not about you.
No, exactly.
It's not about you at all.
You're the person you're interviewing, right?
Yeah.
All right.
And so that, I think that was one of the things that I liked about it. And also one of the reasons I got into this was because of the people. And when I was at the oil and gas magazine, I met a bunch of journalists, and they just kind of became my circle of friends, and I just loved.
You found your tribe, as Tiffany Haddish would say.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh my gosh, she's so funny.
Right.
Well, she was here too.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, no offense.
No. If she was here, I would be. Tiffany, shout out to you. If you ever want to get on the Real Estate of Life, we're ready for you.
Yeah, exactly. Right. But just really liked their curiosity and honesty, and just liked the qualities that they had. Plus, my older sister was a journalist, and she was a broadcast journalist.
Okay.
And I always had looked up to her my whole life, and so I think that had something to do with it too.
Okay.
Yeah, she was really great, and she's since gone on to a different career. But yeah.
So at U of H, you say you were in communications. Were you doing kind of like just a general communications degree and got some of journalism, some of broadcast, some of this, some of that?
Yeah, so I was, I got my degree was in radio and television in the communications school. And I have to admit, I was not a good student. I mean, I graduated college and I was fine, but I wasn't a great student. I didn't really.
Not interested or just?
Yeah.
I guess why weren't you? You say you were a great student.
Yeah. I don't know. Just I always went to really big schools, and unless you find something that you're really good at to do, to focus on, you're just kind of.
You get lost.
You're just sort of a number.
Another conversation we had, Madison. I did not set this up. She's saying this on her own. We have this conversation because we're a sophomore now.
Okay.
So we're starting to think about schools, big school, little school, all that kind of stuff. So yeah.
And who knows? Like if I would have gone to smaller schools, maybe I would have. Maybe I wouldn't have done better. I don't know. And I was fine. Like I did fine.
You got out. It was good. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But it was just like I didn't do internships. I have a really different story than a lot of my colleagues who a lot of journalists know what they want to do.
They knew from the beginning, and they, school paper.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Right.
And for me, it happened later. So.
But didn't it give you a different perspective when you're doing your job sometimes? Or has it given you a different perspective because you came, as some of my friends would say, you came sideways through the door, not through the front door?
Probably. Yeah, probably. It feels sort of like the fake it till you make it kind of thing.
Okay.
Like,
but
like I'm this imposter. I can't believe I'm saying that, but sometimes I feel like, how did I get so lucky to be in this position?
Right.
But yeah, I think.
But that to me gives you perspective.
Right. Yeah. And once I realized that this is something that I wanted to try, and when I, got some lucky breaks early on to get jobs reporting, I feel like I did pretty, I did pretty well, and just put. It was great. It was a great feeling to kind of feel like, all right, this is what I want to do.
Right. I found my tribe. I found my career.
Yeah.
And now I'm able to maximize and leverage that. So this is called the real estate of life. And the reason it's called the real estate of life is that we talk real estate because that's what I'm known for. But I'm really, the life part is what I like the most. And sorry, y'all. If I know y'all log on sometimes to get real estate stuff. But so the motivation, the background. So the reason I like to ask people about themselves is everyone has a story. And I think when we share our stories, one, it humanizes us. And then secondly, there's somebody out there listening that's thinking, oh, man, I'm an accountant right now, and I've always wanted to be a writer. Yeah. And so she didn't go in, the front door, as you say, or as I'm saying, as far as like, I was on a student paper and this, that, and the other.
Right.
Someone out there might have a blog, that's doing something totally different, and that can turn into something. So I just think it's important for people to know, because I don't have a traditional background as far as real estate is concerned. Right. And so I get a lot, now that I'm out there talking to folks like, man, you did this and you were in corporate and now you're, a real estate guy. And I just thank you for sharing your story, because, I didn't know I could go to it that way. So that's why I wanted to make sure that people, and I'm learning as well, know your story, because I remember you saying, I didn't come to this like kind of normal.
Right, the traditional way. Yeah. No, I definitely did not expect to be talking about this today, but I'm happy to share it. And, like I said, as I've gotten older and become a parent and just, have friends with younger siblings that might not be, have a clear path yet.
It's okay.
I feel like they're like, okay, well, Nancy turned out all right.
Right,
and,
she
didn't, I mean, I It wasn't until like my mid-20s.
Do you know that you're kind of like a business celebrity? Do you get that?
Well, I've been doing this a long time, and
Right.
so you know.
Did you know? I mean, it's okay to say yeah or no, whatever. But you are kind of something like a big deal. You know, that's a good. That's a compliment, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't know what to say.
Well, the reason I say that is because I think about the power of media and the fact that I don't know what the circulation of the Chronicle is, especially with all the different changes of how the nerd in me
Right.
kind of keeps up with your industry
Yeah.
from afar, and I know your industry is changing, but the fact that you're on a regular basis and I would assume one of the larger
Yep.
newspapers
Right.
in the United States means that your name is on an article, every couple days or so,
Yep.
if nothing else, of a blurb or a full article or
Yep.
something of that nature, and so people look to you for information, and so you're like Yoda, like the real estate Yoda.
Wow. That should be my new tagline.
And I say that to say, considering you mentioned that you were shy. My daughter is shy, uber shy. She's not shy around us. Like if she's
Yeah.
comfortable with you,
Right.
she's a crazy girl.
Right.
But if she doesn't know you, like if she was sitting here right now, she would kind of just be until she got to know Nancy. Man, that might be 4 or 5 times before she finally let you see
Right.
just a peek.
Yep.
And then it might be another 4 or 5 times. So I find it interesting that you consider yourself relatively shy, but you're like real estate Yoda.
Yeah.
So how do you juxtapose though your natural? Because can I say that you're relatively introvert?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, introverted extrovert maybe. You can be extroverted when you need to, but that's
Exactly.
your
Yeah.
natural space is introverted.
Yeah, like if at work I'm having a busy day, on the phone a lot,
Right.
out interviewing people.
Right.
When I get home, I need
You need
quiet.
to.
Yeah.
So my wife,
Exactly.
Shout out to Cher, love you, is introverted. So extroverts, I'm an extrovert. I get my energy from people, so
Right.
I get energy from this.
Right.
Right. Like,
Right.
oh yeah, my wife gets energy from quiet, and so
Right.
she can do this for a little while.
Yep.
But then she has to go retreat
I'm
to
the
get her
exact
energy.
same way.
Got you.
Yeah.
Got you. So Cher, you were right. No, I'm joking.
And it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard because you're out doing your thing all day, and then you come home and you're with your spouse and
Right.
and your kid, and
And they want to like, hey, what's going on? And you're like,
yeah. I just need
give me 5 minutes.
It's never really 5 minutes. though.
No,
It's more
especially with a
like-
small child. No,
Right.
No, and if you go, a lot of people escape. At least I do, to the restroom. Not necessarily use the restroom, but just to kind of close the door. And then I remember when Madison was little, I would hear it. I'm gonna do what Mr. Producer told me not to do. I'm gonna beat on the table. Daddy, and I'm like, I'm in the give me my 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm saying that. I didn't say that to her. And so how do you juxtapose your job of talking to people all day and interviewing people all day with your natural, desire to kind of be to yourself?
It's and it's changed as I've gotten older and been doing this longer. It's a little bit more. I'm a little bit more comfortable getting out and talking to
Right.
anyone, whether it's man on the street kind of thing or a CEO of a company. But so often in the past when I was younger, I would be psyching myself to go out on an
Right.
interview
Come on.
or
Yeah,
go to lunch with
exactly.
someone I hadn't
Right.
met before, and get out there. And all 9 times out of 10, I come back and I'm just like, wow, I learned so much. That was so fascinating. So after doing that, after having those experiences time and time again, you know that you're always gonna get something out of it.
Right.
And so most of the time.
So the curiosity helps.
Yep.
The curiosity helps.
Yeah.
It can take you out. So I'm gonna switch gears here
Okay.
a little bit. I start off getting to know you, getting to know kind of how you got to be Nancy Sarnoff, real estate Yoda. Hashtag real estate Yoda out there. So tell me about your time as Houston Chronicle real estate. Did you start off doing real estate writing?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's from the beginning.
Yeah.
Right. And so you've had so many stories. Before I even knew you, I knew you because again, I read the real estate stuff because I'm in the industry. But what has been the biggest change you would think in your 12 years at the Chronicle as far as either the types of stories or what would you say, or is there a general theme as to how things have changed from the beginning, or is things pretty much the same as you began?
Well, so there's a few different ways to answer that question. From a business perspective, you know, the newspaper has gone through lots of ups and downs, probably more downs since I started, just because of the internet and
The interweb thing.
the interweb thing, that you know, that big thing, and which has taken a lot of, you know, our advertising dollars. And I'm not, you know, an expert on the business side, but I do know that
The newsroom has changed.
the newsroom has changed. It's gotten smaller, even though the Houston Chronicle is actually a great place to work, because it has grown. Like, it's gone in fits and starts, but we're owned by a private company, Hearst Corporation in New York, and so we don't have some of the same limitations and demands and struggles that a public company would,
Right.
or, you know,
Shareholders, I need my dividend, or, my growth and stuff.
Yeah. So, but we still have been definitely subject to cutbacks, and then just writing more for the website. And now the Chronicle has 2 websites. Well, I have for a couple of years, and
Chron.com and HoustonChronicle.com.
yeah, that's
Shout out!
great.
I'm a
PSA.
loyal subscriber. I'm just telling y'all, Chron.com, and I think the difference is HoustonChronicle.com is more so like full form paper, and Chron is more bloggish. Is that?
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
Blurbish?
Chron.com is free. It's a free
Right.
site, and
Well, that's a big difference too. Yeah.
So it's got a lot of news, but it also has a lot of entertainment and you know, more buzzy types of stories. HoustonChronicle.com is our subscriber site, so you can subscribe to it. It has all of our investigations, all of our hard news.
Long form articles.
Yep,
Right?
yep. It's got podcasts. That's where they live.
Pause. Speaking of podcasts, aren't you on a podcast?
Yes,
Let's talk about that real quick.
Okay.
Yeah. So tell me about the podcast.
I was actually going to say, one of the changes at the papers is, you know, now that we're all kind of having to do more multimedia stories and tell our stories.
Everybody is. The sports guys. I noticed that. It's like across the board.
Across the board. Tell our stories in different ways. And I was lucky enough to start 2 years ago doing a podcast. It's called Looped In. And it's a Houston Chronicle podcast. I started it with my colleague Aaron Mulvaney, who was covering real estate at the time. We just, you know, we were very friendly. We had we thought we had a really good rapport.
Yeah, I do.
We
I've
made each
listened
other
to
laugh.
them. Yeah.
And so we started this podcast called Looped In, where we sat down and we talked about stories, and we talked about characters in Houston real estate and the things we were working on and the controversies, and we would bring people in to interview, and it was a pretty fun thing that we started to do, and it started to get some good traction and a lot of listeners. She has since taken a job, but she relocated to Washington, D.C., so she's not doing it with me anymore, unfortunately. So I record with other folks, or I'll just
the
do
latest
it solo.
episode you were with the Wreck-It Ralph. You had a colleague. I forgot his name.
Yeah, Alan West.
He's
someone that comes on and kind of helps co-host
Gotcha.
with me on occasion. And yeah, the Wreck-It Ralph thing, that was funny, because I don't know if I'm sure you know that movie, right?
Oh, if you have a child, you almost have to.
Right,
have it.
right.
Right. So
because
yes,
I was
do.
talking to people and I was like, can I use that in the headline? Can I use that in the story? And they're like, I don't know what that means. I was like, I used it a little bit.
It probably depended on the age of their child.
Right.
If they had children.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Right. But it's still pretty big.
It's-
Like
it's a-
Pixar,
it's a big
Disney.
thing. Yeah,
big
it's a
movie.
big thing.
And they're doing a sequel. Did you know that?
I did not know this.
Yeah,
So
it's
Madison's
called-
gotten to the teen movie thing, so I'm losing my child cred.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I still would probably go see it though.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I think it's called Ralph Breaks the Internet. Seriously. So yeah.
Mr.
So
Producer just gave a thumbs up. That is correct.
Yeah.
He has a daughter as well, around
Okay, so
9-10 years old.
he'll be
so,
seeing
yeah.
it.
Yeah. Exactly.
but yeah,
12. Oh wow. Okay.
the person we just interviewed, the Wreck-It Ralph guy,
Right.
is a guy from Cherry Companies, the big
I've used them
demolition
personally.
and moving.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They raised a house for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's been in the demo business for years, so I called him the real life Wreck-It Ralph.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we are going on 2 years now with the podcast. We just hit 100,000 downloads, so
Wow.
that was really exciting.
Mr. Producer, we need to get with Nancy because we're not at 100,000. We're at a percentage of that, and we don't need to talk about percentages, but we definitely want to get to that. So this multimedia, you know what we're going to do? This is what I'm going to do. This is going to be a 2-part podcast. We're just going to do a 2-part podcast. So I'm about to ask Nancy what are some of maybe her top 3 real estate juicy stories that she's covered over her 12 years. In order for you to hear that, you're going to have to listen to part 2 of my interview with Nancy Sarnoff. So this is The Real Estate of Life with Kevin Rouse and friends. My friend this week was Nancy Sarnoff. I will see you next week. Hey, thanks for listening as always. Do you have questions about any of the topics I'm talking about? If you have questions, let me know. Email me at kevin@kevinrouse.com. Again, that's kevin@kevinrouse.com. I'm going to do a podcast just on the questions that you guys are sending to me. So feel free to send them to me. Again, that's kevin@kevinrouse.com.